Hi, all. Very good day to everybody. Today, we are about to discuss the difference between domestic territory and foreign territory. This one particular concept is one such popularly expected, repeated question in the recent year board exam of 12th standard economics. Particularly, this particular question is falling under four more category, like questions like 13, 14, or 15 questions in CBSE board exam question paper. Basically, what are actually domestic territory? In a layman point of view, we generally say domestic territory means geographical concept or a political concept. But unfortunately, in economics, we deal the term territory in an economics perspective. What are actually an economic perspective, right? We have a collection here of the definition. Domestic territory refers to the geographical area administered by a government within which the persons or the individuals, goods and services and capital can move freely. It does not include just the political boundaries of the country, but also some areas outside of our borders where the country residents operate economically. So this is not actually about people who catch a flight and go to foreign country and work. It's not in that context. This is about value addition. Basically, in national income or domestic income, we much give towards a value for the value addition, right? So it talks about from where the value addition takes place. When we talk about domestic territory, we much worry about the place rather than the persons. We much worry about the territory rather than the resident. So that's why I often say to my students also, domestic territory is a place concept and national income is a person concept. What concept do you actually talk here? If you can see here, you can have the global map where people actually move everywhere, but this is not what we call as economic territory. They actually, we go to foreign country, we come back from there. That particular activity is not actually what we call as economic territory or domestic territory. Rather, you have examples here, simply what you know already as a layman's point of view. Basically, domestic territory means the area which is under the control of our government, whether it may be a political perspective or a geographical perspective. That's the point number one. Apart from that, there are three other more places we are including: embassies, consulates, military establishments, which is in abroad, which are controlled by the Indian residents. Right, that's very essential. This is an exception. You see, point number two, three, four. ECF, like these are the ones where we talk about. Despite the fact that they are actually operated in foreign countries, we worry whether it is for whose economic interest. Basically, embassies, ships, aircrafts operated by Indian residents in foreign countries. Say, for example, there is an Air India flight which is usually travels between Japan and Australia, which never even comes to India, but it is running there with an economic interest. It is run by an Indian resident, and his economic interest lies with India's domestic territory. Therefore, the ships, aircrafts which are operated by Indian residents are also part of our domestic territory. I would like to add here again, the fact is that certain ships, certain flights may never come to India, but if it's owned by an Indian, then it is its operations, its earning are very much part of our domestic income. Right, fishing vessels and oil rigs, floating platforms in international waters, all are examples of uh, part of our domestic territory. Say, for example, if an Indian is owning an oil ring in Gulf nations, or as I said, that fishing vessels, which is even going to the international waters or the waters of other countries for fishing activities, still part of our domestic territory, right? So, apart from the first point, as you all know, right, it's even in a normal person does not know economics, they may say this is what our territory. But apart from that, we are adding two, three, and four as an inclusion in a foreign perspective. These three are exceptions. And I would like to add here, what are the differences between embassies and consulates? Embassies are the ones which are representative organization from a foreign country to a domestic country, which is usually established only in the capital city, whereas consulates are like branches for the embassies which may be found all across the larger cities of a nation. Say, for example, we have an embassy for USA in New Delhi, but we do not have the embassy all across India, but we have consulates in Chennai, in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, in all other places, right? So, as for military establishments, and interestingly, here we have given an example, like India do not have considerably a foreign military base, but yet, in context of studying national income, there are, say, for example, USA is having foreign military bases, different nation, and we should be feeling lucky that USA is not having a foreign military base in India. If that is to be the case, it will be part of their economic territory. We have a very good example. Sri Lanka, they have leased a particular place for China, a place called Hambantota for 99 years. That is an example of a Chinese domestic territory, but not Sri Lankan domestic territory, right? And some of the exclusions are there in domestic territory, which are part of foreign embassies, military bases located within our country. Say, for example, USA Embassy in New Delhi is not part of our domestic territory. Now the question comes, why, sir, we are not including the embassies in our domestic territory? Say, of course, in context of military, in context of defense, in context of geography or politics, these are the embassies or consulates which are very much in our control. But unfortunately, they run the offices in Indian soil, not for India's value addition, but for their domestic economy's value addition. Here, the value addition matters a lot. A foreign officer working in India in their embassy, they work for their country. So initially, it gets added to their economy's value. That's why foreign embassies situated in Indian soil are not part of our domestic territory. Rather, they are part of their domestic territory. Here you have an example: a German company running a factory in India, part of domestic territory of India. So one thing is clear: except those exceptions, as I said, ships, crafts, and like oil rigs or the military bases, all other things usually are part of domestic territory of the respective nations. Say, for example, whether it is a German company or Australian company, if it is the company running in India and they mainly manufacture in India, they are producing in India, they're investing in India, all their economic activities are within the part of India's domestic region. Therefore, we call as the domestic territory of India. Such is the case for the foreign country also. Say, for example, we have a lot of pharmaceutical company running in African continent like Congo, Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa, which are owned by Indian manufacturers. But the manufacturing activity are happening there in the African continent itself. Therefore, despite the fact that they are owned by Indian residents, but the manufacturing activity adds value to their respective domestic territory, therefore they will be not part of our domestic territory. Here, an example: an Indian company operates a mine in Australia, not part of domestic territory of India. So all the things which are place-wise established in their respective nations are part of their respective domestic territory, excluding the fact that these are the exceptions: embassies, consulates, military bases, and ships, aircrafts, and oil rigs, floating platforms. When I say a floating platform, say, for example, China is having their own space station, so it may be flying over some other country's region, because we are actually controlling some few hundred kilometers of airspace only. So space stations are, of course, are running over a lower earth orbit, maybe flying anywhere. Therefore, nobody can actually climb its economic territory. Therefore, these floating objects are part of their respective countries. Now, a major point of difference between national income and domestic income. Of course, we will separately study in detail about domestic and national income differences with the suitable example. But here, when it comes to domestic income or domestic territory, it is not a problem whether it is a foreigner or an Indian. See here, it's not a problem whether it's a foreigner or Indian, regardless of who earns, but where he earns. So you give more priority when it comes to the domestic territory. The word where, place matters. When it comes to national, who person matters. So the crucial differences between domestic income and national income: domestic income is related to the question where it takes place and to which country it adds value, whereas national income, whom it relates to and whom is adding to national income of which country. This is the main point of difference between domestic and national income. Here, another important tip to remember: when we say domestic territory, it is synonymous to economic territory. And I've brought another interesting information for you: net geographic area plus net economic area. Both put together, we make economic territory. Say, for example, I have mentioned net economic area, net geographical economic area. Say, for example, I said like we have a consulate in Chennai. That particular consulate, though, is part of a geographical reach, but it is not in the interest of India's domestic income. Therefore, so we have consulates in foreign, and foreign countries are having consulates in India. So when we make a net value, a net regional value in context of economic operations, that becomes net geographical area plus net economic area. As I said, that economic area is much broader than the geographical concept, right? As I said, for example, an Indian embassy may be running in Japan, so that embassy is part of our domestic territory and it is our economic territory. It makes a better meaning, right? And when we talk about foreign territory, which is equal to outside the economic control, whichever is not in our control, I said like Chennai embassy or Chennai consulate in India, which is not in our control. In an economic perspective, of course, we are only giving the security for them. Our local police are safeguarding the building, all things are fine. But their economic interest, their production activities, what services they are rendering, it's not adding value to our domestic territory, right? The next one, the final slide for today, that we have brought four important examples. Salary received by Indian engineer working in USA. As I said, that domestic income does never bother about the person, it bother about the place where he earns. USA, therefore it's part of US's domestic income. Rent earned by a foreigner on a property located in Mumbai. I said Mumbai is a place belong to Indian economy, Indian domestic territory. It doesn't make any sense whether it's a foreigner or local. No problem. It's part of our domestic economy, our domestic territory. Then profits earned by branch of foreign bank operating in India. Again, where it is in India. Domestic is a place concept. National is a person concept. Interest received by an Indian resident from bonds issued by government of Japanese bank. Again, place, Japanese bank or government of Japan, whatever it is. Place is in foreign country. It's therefore their domestic income, not our domestic income. That's it for today. It's an interesting topic. We always expect a 4 mark question like among the following which are not part of domestic and part of domestic with valid examples. Right. That's for today. And if you have any other topics that we can discuss in daily basis or occasional, whenever you feel free to drop in our comment box about social sciences, all four different branches, not a problem. Also, class 12 economics, be it be IED or macroeconomics. Definitely, we will come with a very valuable slides presentation to make you better understood economics. Thank you all. Bye bye.